Good morning. This is going to be my fourth and final video on the upcoming lunar month from the new moon on July 17th uh, through the new moon on August 16th, or up to the new moon on August 16th. And in this final video that I'm making, I want to talk about how this lunar month will affect Putin. And there's a lot of stuff going on in his chart this coming lunar month. So let's see if I can share my screen here. And I just need to make a few adjustments before I can get started. Okay, I think we're ready. So this is the lunar month for Putin, July 17, 2023 through August 16, 2023. And here I have a buy wheel where on the inside is Vladimir Putin's chart. There's a little bit of dispute about when he was born. I'm using the chart that most people use, and so far it's worked very well. And on the outside are the positions of the planets at the time of the new moon on July 17th. Now, all the aspects that are shown here, I've mentioned this before, I'm looking only at aspects that are within 1 degree of being exact. And even so, I don't always look at every aspect here. I'm looking primarily at those which are going to last for a while. Those are going to be the ones which have an influence. I'm not going to, for example, look at aspects that the sun makes because the sun moves pretty quickly, and those aspects aren't going to last very long. Also, one more caveat. Uh, there is a lot, I'm sure, going on in Putin's life that we don't know about, that we don't hear about. That makes it more difficult to put some of the tensions that I see in this chart into a specific context. So sometimes, whether it's a good aspect or a bad aspect, I'll sometimes just have to talk in broad generalities because I don't know exactly what he's going through on a day-to-day level. On the other hand, some things are going to be pretty clear and we will see certain patterns emerge. So let's get started here. First thing we'll take a look at is transiting Jupiter is in opposition to his natal Venus. This suggests that others oppose Putin's values. Now, if he integrates their thoughts with his, then all may be well. Otherwise, not so well. And this is in effect during the middle half of July. Next, we have transiting Uranus making a square to his natal Pluto, which is in the 10th house, which has to do with leadership and status in society. And this is going to be a really big influence. This suggests that others exert pressure for a change in Putin's status. And this is in effect July through October. And of course, we recently saw the Wagner Group's rebellion against, apparently against Putin or other aspects of Putin's government. Let's see. Next, we have that transiting Neptune is making a sesquiquadrant to natal Venus in his first house. Venus has to do with values, among other things. Neptune dissolves the boundaries between things. It's also natally placed in his 12th house, which is sometimes called the house of hidden enemies or self-undoing. So the sesquiquadrant is kind of a breaking point or turning point or minor irritation. Thus, irritation or turning point with regard to personal values, possible confusion or self-delusion, possible assassination or plots against Putin. This is, in effect, April through mid-October, so this aspect has been there for quite a while. And again, I'm sure there are things going on behind the scenes in Putin's life that we never hear about. So there could be lots of things which happen related to this aspect which are never released to the public. Okay, we also have, let's see, it looks like Uranus makes a sesquiquadrate to natal Chiron in the third house. Chiron is an urge that it's an urge toward transcendence. It wants us to go from the personal to the transpersonal. But for a lot of people, that can only happen once they break that hard shell, that hard Saturnian shell they've erected around themselves and their personality. And so a lot of times Chiron manifests as wounding rather than transcendence. Okay? So what's going to happen? Well, there could be possible sudden illness or wounding by others. Uh, Uranus tends to break things up and it can cause very sudden changes. Wounding or illness that can be related to Chiron. Now, alternatively, it could be Putin who does the wounding to others. And this is in effect from mid-June through mid-November. Okay, next aspect, we have transiting Saturn, making a sesquiquadrate to natal Neptune, which is in the 12th house. And Saturn is regulation, discipline, also restrictions and frustration. And let's see, Neptune rules Pisces, which is on the cusp of his 5th house, which has to do with pleasure and recreation. 12th house itself has to do with, among other things, self-undoing or hidden enemies, assassination. So we'll say restrictions upon personal pleasure and inspiration, self-undoing or assassination, May through mid-June and late June through mid-August. That is when this one will be in effect. Now he also has Jupiter, transiting Jupiter, making a sesquiquadrate to natal Mars. Mars is aggression, physical things. Jupiter's expansion, it's in the 7th house of others. So in general, I've said an expansion of attacks of some type from others. And this is in effect during the middle half of July. Okay. Next, we have transiting Venus making a semi-square to the natal sun. And Venus is moving slower than usual because it's going to go retrograde. So let's see, likely differences between Putin's beliefs and the values of other leaders. Since Venus is transiting through the 10th house, that represents other people with status, and Venus represents values. And this is in effect in the second half of July. Now we have transiting Uranus, making a quincunx to natal Mercury, which is in the 12th house. Mercury rules both Virgo and Gemini is on the cusp of the 9th house, but the bulk of Gemini is here in the 8th house of death and transformation. So, in the quincunx, this requires adjustments or change of some sort. So, I've said here adjustments in thoughts in response to others, also possible death because so much of Gemini is here in the 8th house. And this is in effect mid-July through mid-October. Let's see, the next aspect we'll look at is transiting Chiron, making a semi-sextile to natal Jupiter in the 7th house. Again, the semi-sextile requires some adjustments, just like the quincunx. And Chiron can manifest as wounding. The 7th house has to do with others, hence possible wounding of others or possible wounding of Putin's mind. This is because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, which is on the cusp of his 3rd house, which is his personal mind. And this one is in effect June through mid-September. Okay, now we have one or two good aspects. We have transiting Chiron making a trine to the south lunar node and a sextile to the north lunar node. So here is where Chiron might manifest itself in a more positive way in terms of transcendence. The lunar nodes tend to intensify things, hence a possible feeling of transcendence that is commonly intensified by the lunar nodes. This will be in effect June through mid-September. This is one of those things which is probably manifesting more inside Putin than outside. So this could be an inner, almost subconscious feeling of well-being, connection, and transcendence. Now he also has transiting Saturn, making a sextile to his natal Chiron in the third house. Hence, transcendent thinking is supported by personal discipline, mid-May through most of July. So this one has already been in effect. So in spite of all the other difficulties, he may be experiencing some good, slightly more transcendent feelings and personal discipline, which has to do with Saturn, can help with that. Okay, now on August 1st, we have the full moon, so let's take a look at the full moon in Putin and see what's going on here. Well, he has transiting, let's see, Neptune, making a square to his natal Mars. And this is in effect late July through mid-October. And this could result in delusional thinking, physical difficulties, assassination attempts, late July through mid-October. He also has transiting Neptune making a sesquiquadrant with his natal Venus. And we've, I believe, seen this one before. So as I said previously, irritation or a turning point with regard to personal values, possible confusion or self-delusion, possible assassination or plots against Putin. And this is in effect April through mid-October. Okay, here's another one I think we saw before. Transiting Uranus, making a sesquiquadrant to natal Chiron. It looks like this was in effect during the new moon on the 17th. So once again, sudden wounding by others, alternatively wounding others, in effect mid-June through mid-November. Okay. Of course, on June 23rd, the actions of the Wagner Group. That was very wounding to Putin politically. And let's see, we have transiting Saturn, making a sesquiquadrant to Neptune in the 12th house. So restrictions upon dreams, depression, self-undoing and hidden enemies. And this is in effect May through mid-June and July through mid-August. Okay, so I think we've seen this one before also. It was in effect at the time of the new moon, in addition to being in effect at the time of the full moon. Now let's look at a trine we have here. Transiting Jupiter is making a trine to his natal, I'm sorry, not a trine, but a quincunx to his natal sun. So this is going to require some adjustments. And transiting Jupiter is in the 7th house, which represents others. So others cause Putin to have to make adjustments to his self. Possible self-undoing. This is in effect the last quarter of July through mid-August. And here we have a semisextile transiting Chiron, making a semisextile to Jupiter. This also was in effect during the new moon. So once again, possible wounding of others, possible wounding of Putin's mind, since Jupiter rules his third house of the personal mind. And this is, again, in effect, June through mid-September. Okay, so there you have it for Putin. Let's sum it all up. Putin's horoscope is much more problematic than Russia's for this lunar month and beyond. His chart shows multiple of indications of attempts or desires by others to remove him from power. Thus, I'm not surprised that in late June he was challenged by the Wagner Group. I noticed over 6 months ago the possibility of some sort of revolt against Putin occurring this summer, and so it has. Furthermore, the actions of the Wagner Group may not be the last challenge to his power. He may still be able to hold on to power, but it seems more likely that one way or another that his days are numbered, either by his age or by political or military coup. But the bigger question is when Putin is gone, who or what will replace him? It is not a certainty, but is definitely a possibility that we may know the answer to that question within the next few months. So, Russia has difficulties now, but it has some good times, maybe a little bit of release from that tension occurring in August and even into October, uh, which I talked about in the previous video on the lunar month and Russia. For Putin here, things look definitely worse. There are many, many signs of a change in his status or people who would just simply like to get rid of him and who may be plotting against him. But like I said, his hold on power, it may be strong enough to weather this. If he has health difficulties, his doctors may be good enough to get him through that. So the pressures are there, the indications are there, but that does not make anything for certain. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Okay, let me stop sharing this presentation. And that's it for this fourth and final video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gives you some things to think about. I hope you keep an eye on these things and try and see what comes to pass, what doesn't. And I hope to see you again at some point in the future with another video. So long.